Welcome back my gentle people, this is Corner Stories and today we have a 2-story video and both stories come with updates. So let's get into it. Story 1, AITA 4, Abandoning My Siblings. I, F17, am the oldest of 3 living with my 2 siblings, F14 and M10, and our mother. Our father left when my brother was born, and afterwards we moved states closer to family for help. Since then I've been helping my mom with raising my siblings the best I can. We've had family come over to help when I was busy and my mom was at work, but for the most part it was just the 4 of us. When we moved, I was placed back in school as soon as I could be. I've always been more quiet than most, and living in a new state only made the social awkwardness worse. But eventually, I met another girl around my age, and we started to become good friends. The girl, Alana, and I started doing a lot together. It only took a couple years, if not less, to be considered like family. A little over 5 months ago, Alana and I started dating. We took it very slow, and kept it to ourselves. Last month when we hit 5 months, she convinced me to tell my mom. She was fine with the ex-boyfriends I've had, and based off prior comments seemed to support the LGBTQ+ community. Last Sunday, I decided to tell her. Alana spent the night, because she wanted to be with me when I told my mom. So in the morning we both sat her down with us at the dining room table. When we told her, she freaked out. She said all sorts of Angie things at us. My girlfriend and I tried to keep our cool, but before the conversation was over I was in tears and she was clearly pissed. That was the only time I've ever swore at my mother. I left the house for a few hours. I needed to relax and calm down before making any hasty decisions. When I returned later, I opened the door to see my suitcase packed and sitting next to the couch. I took the hint, grabbed it, and left again. I've been staying with Alana since, but it's difficult because her parents don't know about us either, and they just know my mom and I got into an argument. This week my phone's been blowing up with family members criticizing me for leaving my siblings and mom like that. I can only assume they've been given one half of the story, but maybe I'm wrong. My mom hasn't called or messaged since. I feel sorry, but at the same time I don't know if she understands how she hurt me. Relevant comments: why did Alana convince you to tell your mom? She wanted to start easing into who we told. Our friends knew, but that was them more finding out than being told. She wanted to tell hers, too, but because of the remarks my mom made before, which made it seem like she supported the community, thought it'd be better to start with her. Now that I think about it, my mom didn't yell at Alana as much as she did me. I guess she's one of those, they're fine, just not related to me, people or something. Seeing the number of comments about this, I guess I should have clarified better. Alana wanted to tell her parents too, but thought it'd be easier to tell my mom first because she seemed like she'd be more supportive. It's also easier to tell one before telling two. It wasn't so much convincing me to tell my mom, but the 2 of us to start coming out together starting with my mom. Now we're both scared to tell anyone else. Is it possible your mom was more upset about you sharing a bed than anything else? Well, the lack of a platonic relationship doesn't imply a sexual one. We didn't say anything like that. Just that we were now romantically involved. Another commenter also said that we probably should have told her first, and they're probably right. Hindsight is 20/20 and all. I've mentally blocked out a lot of what was said, truth be told. I'd love to give direct quotes for context, but I just can't. But I have to believe that if it was mentioned during the start of the argument that her issue was us not telling her, it wouldn't have ended up with me in tears and on someone else's couch. Update: a lot of you sent some sweet comments my way. I appreciate all the support. Even some of the more controversial comments did provide some great insight. I took a lot of these to heart, and went to see if I can fix things. Firstly, I called my father. Our relationship is strained, being separated and not seeing each other often, but he's made it to some of my bigger events since the divorce. Double digits, sweet 16, mostly birthday stuff but sometimes other things. He never wanted us to move away, just felt he couldn't handle a 3rd kid at the time. I digress. I called him, and it went to voicemail. I found myself crying into the phone as I relived the past 2 weeks, but I made sure to word it as, "Mom kicked me out because I have a girlfriend." He called back a few hours later and said he'd see what he can do to help, and will keep me updated, and asked me to do the same. Secondly, on Tuesday, I talked to Alana about us telling her parents. Between people saying I should to get their support and those saying I shouldn't in fear of more backlash, it wasn't an easy choice. I was hoping worst case scenario, my dad would be able to help. And in the best case, we'd have 3 adults rooting for us. She was hesitant, seeing how things went with my mom, but ultimately agreed. We sat her parents down similarly to my mom. When I say we, I really mean she did most of the talking. I was still worried things would go wrong. She started off by simply explaining why I've been here for over a week during class finals. We tried coming out to my mom, which created an argument, and led to me getting kicked out. Her father said he wished we had told him sooner, and, "I'm sorry for failing you too, for making this feel like an unsafe place to be who you are." Alana's stepmom and dad talked for a few minutes before coming back with new rules. They wanted their couch back. If that meant dusting off the air mattress from when we were kids, or just getting some extra blankets, they didn't really care. We do us, so long as it isn't illegal and we don't get into trouble. But that said, since I was now under their roof in a slightly less temporary way, I'd have to start following the same rules Alana did. Curfew, grades, things like that. All of which I agreed to. Her parents are going to take us back to my house today. I want to give my mom another chance. I mean, I don't get how you can just walk away from someone after your entire life. I'm either going to get the documents I need, or my mom back. In the latter case, I still don't know if I'm going to go back to sleeping there quite yet. I'm still hurt. After talking to my sister, she understands and would rather me stay away if needed. My brother's a little confused, but says he just wants us all to be happy. Thank you all again for your overwhelming support and advice. Relevant comment. One more clarification on Alana and OP coming out. This was something I wanted to clarify in this post if I wasn't limited to 3,000 characters after seeing people's reactions to the first post. She wanted the two of us to start coming out together, that's why she was with me when we first told my mom. My mom seemed supportive, and her parents never really hinted one way or another until we told them. Telling one supportive person is easier than trying to tell two unknown people. Neither of us knew how it'd go, so I don't fault her. She feels awful about it still, but I'm trying to reassure her that there was no way of knowing. Mini update: how did it go picking up your stuff? She wasn't even there, she was at work. But all the documents we needed were left on the table. So I guess that's that. Guessing my dad called ahead to make sure everything was ready. Update 2. Good evening, friends and enemies. All 209 of you who followed this account looking for an update. Lucky for you all, I was able to remember my password again. All the comments talking about legal action, well, none of those really got much input from me. It just seemed like so much at the time, and I knew the best way I could help my siblings was to be their escape when they need me to, but also not do anything to leave their residency as questionable as mine. Alana and I are still together, and very happy. Should be hitting 11 months at the end of this month, by far the longest, and most authentic, relationship either of us have been in. It's had some rough moments with family drama and all, but frankly I wouldn't trade it for the world. She even had me pitch in my thoughts when redecorating her room this summer, trying to make it feel more like our room, I guess, lol. Her family has been incredibly sweet as well. I feel like I've been such an inconvenience, but they hardly seem to notice, or at least try to not let me think I am. An aunt or grandparent sibling here and there who don't agree with our lifestyle, but they don't get humored much by the rest of them. Heaven knows our biggest fighter is right by my side half the time. My dad's been trying to help the best he can. There's little he really can do after all, but he's trying. How much he's talking to my mother in all this, if at all, but I still appreciate his efforts. Kinda wish it didn't take this to hear from him more, but it's nice to know he's still looking out for me after all these years. My sister and I have been doing things more now that school started back up. I try to help her with her homework, or just hang out to help blow off some steam. She still wishes I was home for all of this, but knows she wouldn't be either if she were in my shoes. She's also been keeping me up to date with my brother, he's starting to understand things more. But she also told me something I don't think I can forget. She told me about my mom. My mom's not taking things so well. According to my sister, she's a mess. Not as happy as she used to be is the easy way of putting it. Still taking care of my sister and brother, trying to not let it affect them, but noticeably not well. Apparently my sister has caught her lingering by my door a couple times. But she still hasn't messaged me since our falling out. Well, apparently there's been a whole lot of miscommunication. My mother packed my suitcase after our fight, yes. However, she seems to recall hearing me say something about leaving before I stormed off. After she calmed down and processed her emotions, she packed a case and wrote a note. The note was supposed to be on the coffee table next to my suitcase, I just must have missed it. My sister paraphrased the note, but she recalls it saying something along the lines of my mother apologizing for the argument, saying she hopes I can forgive her, but if not, she wanted to make it easier for me to not be stuck in such an awful home for any longer than I needed to. This had me confused, because if that were the case, why didn't she ever text or call me? Not even a letter or email? Why did nobody else know of this note until my sister found out a couple weeks ago? What about the initial family blowback? I'm honestly quite confused. It's been some time though, so I might try and re-establish some contact with my mother again, to get some answers for myself. I don't know what I'll do with them, if anything. I might update you again, I might not. Only time will tell. Thank you guys for your support with the initial 2 posts of my melodrama. Take care. Story 2. I ruined my parents' relationship over reading mail. I, 24F, don't want to say what I do for work, but let's just say it's the type of job that includes a lot of written letters from clients that are supposed to be confidential and only for my eyes. I'm fresh out of college and living with my parents so I can finish paying off for school. My work letters of course go to my parents' address since they live miles away from a post office and driving to a P.O. box is a huge pain. The issue started with my father. Ever since high school, when I received mail, my dad would open it. Whenever I received Christmas birthday cards in the mail with money in them, my dad would hand me the card and insist he'll keep the money safe for me until I demanded he hand it over. Any package I would order for myself he would open and hand to me. Sometimes the products were used by him as well. The final straw was when he received my acceptance letter to my dream college, and instead of waiting for me to come home to open it, he opened it himself and called me while I was at work to congratulate me. I've spoken to my mother about how much this makes me feel uncomfortable, and she told me she'd speak to my father about it, to which he would apologize and not do it for a week before doing it again the next week. I had also spoken to my dad about the confidentiality of the mail I would be receiving now that I'm working, and he says he understands, but it all came crashing down a few weeks ago while I was working. My dad came into my room and handed me opened envelopes from my clients and even tried to have a conversation about it with me, but I just ignored him until he got the hint and left. After work I yelled at him for violating client confidentiality, to which he got defensive and said that I live in his house and any mail sent to his house would be read by him. Furious, that next week I thought I would take revenge on my father by going to the mailbox and reading his mail. But what I found was what ended my relationship with him. I had found credit card statements on jewelry and restaurants that were too fancy for my dad to go to alone, and I don't remember the last time my dad took my mom on a date nor bought her any jewelry. I also found a letter addressed to my dad from a woman who stated how tired she was for hiding this relationship for so long and how she is so desperate for his letters to reach her. When my dad noticed the mailbox was empty, my dad ran back in the house as white as a ghost. He walked into the kitchen to see me and my mom in the kitchen reading his mail. Before the fighting could start, my mom asked me to leave the house. So I drove to my aunt's, who lives 45 minutes away, and explained everything. I came back after 2 days when my dad's stuff was gone. My mom told me my dad's living in a hotel and she will be in contact with a divorce attorney. Turns out my dad has been having an affair with a family friend and we're hiding it through letters. Oh, leave no digital footprint. My dad ended up showing my mom the stash of letters he had, and she took photos of each and every single letter before she asked him to leave. I feel at fault because I at first wanted to be petty with my dad, but it unraveled into this huge event and made me think, oh, wonder he's been looking through my shit. He was giving himself away. I feel like I shattered my mom's world since I can hear her cry every night about it since the incident. Top comments: you didn't ruin your parents' marriage, your father ruined it. No wonder he was so controlling. Also, don't know if you're in the USA, but it's a crime to open someone else's mail. It's not your fault he's a shitty person. Just be glad your mother doesn't have to put up with his BS anymore. OP's response: I will be pursuing a case about this. Thank you so much. I already spoke to my work about it. Comment 2. You didn't ruin your parents' relationship. Your dad having an affair ruined it. You just found out about it and gave your mom the chance to make an informed decision with all the facts on whether she wanted to be in a marriage with a cheater. Comment 3. That maybe her dad took her birthday money to pay for his secret life. Comment 4. His insane mail rule wasn't about invading your privacy. That was a bonus for him. It was about covering his ass for as long as possible. He did it to himself. Edit update: thank you all so much. I wrote this all out last night drunk off my mind, and I never expected this much kindness from strangers. I'll go ahead and answer a few questions here and then give an update. Was my dad using my money from the gifts to buy stuff for his mistress? I'm 50-50 on this answer. I received cards when I was young with money and it was the same routine. Aunts and uncles would leave $100 per card and my dad always gave them to me when I was younger. As I got older, obviously the money reduced to $20 to $40. I do believe my dad would give me back half my money in those cards back, which would make sense as to how he was able to make such huge expenses on his mistress. I need to collect proper evidence, so I plan on calling my aunts and uncles and other relatives who would send me money. The mistress would send letters addressed as a business or a credit card company. If you ask me, they were doing the most. When my mom would check the mail, she would see the letters that were addressed to my dad as bills or some crazy BS and never opened them because she doesn't handle the bills. A lot of packages were sent by the mistress as well, which is why he went through my packages, and I don't want to imagine what kind of crap she was mailing him. Now for the update. Like I said before, it's been a few weeks since it happened. I've been doing my best to comfort my mother while she deals with all the legal business and my dad's constant appeals to my mom to apologize and begged for forgiveness. I've been here to listen to her, and she keeps spiraling between wanting to forgive him and cursing him to hell. I told her my own personal opinion, which was to never take back a cheater. She did basically everything for him, and she shouldn't see it as her not being enough for him. That's his fault for not appreciating her. The mistress also was a married woman. My mom reached out to her husband, sending him the letters she had taken photos of, even had a long phone call with him about what was going on. He initiated the divorce, and the mistress is now angry at my father for not being more careful. The mistress's ex-husband, who I'll call Henry, has been a best friend of my mom's throughout the legal cases. I hear the mistress is still reaching out to forgive him, which I honestly think is very funny since my dad is doing the same thing. She was financially dependent on Henry, and my dad isn't making enough at his job to support the lifestyle she wants. Yesterday Henry asked my mom to come out to lunch with him. They've been sad shut-ins for the past few days, and they agreed to go and get some fresh air. I encouraged my mom to do such and to call me if my dad or the mistress decide to show face when they went, just so I could pick her up. My dad hasn't apologized to me at all about reading my mail. In fact, he's called me and left me voicemails telling me that this whole situation was my fault, then going and crying saying he regrets everything and he hopes he can still be my dad. I honestly don't know what to do with him right now other than ignore him. I don't know if there will be another update, but I will if something major happens. Again, thank you so much for the supportive comments, and I hope some of what I said clears things up for you all. And that is the end of the story. That's it, guys. This is where I will leave you. I hope you enjoyed the stories I had for you. I certainly enjoyed them. Please be sure to drop a like or a comment, and it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to the channel. Until next time, be kind, be curious, and I will see you. Corner Stories signing off.